Let's talk about the lazy man's turn. What is that? The lazy man's turn is essentially what it sounds like. I, as a lead, get very lazy with my motions or my intention to lead my follower. Now, there are some pluses and some minuses to this, and I'll show you what this means in just a moment. There are some pluses and some minuses to it. The plus is that I don't have to work a whole lot. The minus is that the follower is going to work 10 times harder. And we don't necessarily want this, but there are some other pluses to this, is that one of them is that while I don't necessarily have to work a lot, I do start to feel what's going on with the follower, and I want to engage the follower's defaults. Now, we've already talked a little bit about the follower's defaults, and if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. But quickly, the follower's default in this case, by default, because it's so ingrained in them, is to go side, over rotation, side, forward, and then we walk out of it. Now, I want you to pay attention to something this time that I do this. Last time when I just did that, I disassociated slightly. Watch what happens. Is that I'm not going to disassociate in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to do what most leads do, and that's this idea, is that I'm kind of sort of leaving the follower behind, and they're having to catch up with me. That's another downside to this, is that when I start this turn, I end up leaving the follower behind, and we don't necessarily want this. But this is what's referred to as the lazy man's turn. I'm employing the follower's defaults. And there are some, there's one more downside to this, is that this becomes an expected behavior from both lead as well as for follow. And we don't want this. We actually want to do something else. And that's an engaged turn. And that means that when I start this turn, I actually want to turn with them and then engage disassociation, which ends up as applied disassociation in the follower. And then she takes a back step around me, a side step, and we actually lead this forward step, boom, and we walk out of it. That's ideally what we're looking for. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. So, in conclusion, the lazy man's turn is engaging the follower's defaults. Now, truth be told, this works in close or open embrace. However, there is a caveat to this. And while you may run into this kind of follower, unfortunately, there aren't more of them. It's the milangero turn follower that by default, she will, the moment that she starts to feel a turn, she's going to go, oh, this is a turn, and I'm going to milangero turn. And we end up with this, and it's going to feel a little strange in open embrace. And even in close embrace, while you may be expecting a close embrace Molinete, she is going to milangero turn because that's her default. There are a few of those followers, but when you get them, you should treat them like gold. Okay, that's essentially the lazy man's turn, or the concept of the lazy man's turn. I strongly suggest that in conclusion, that we don't necessarily want to engage this idea of the lazy man's turn. Instead, we actually want to learn to lead the turn, which is great, or then, a milangero turn, whichever comes best or whichever comes first for you. Okay, there you go. Thank you very much, Jenny, and I will see you in class.